Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. There's a notification.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Thursday night. Feels like a Tuesday night, but it's not.
We're going to
Got
get
audio,
it.
we're good.
Got it.
Audio.
Here we go.
Sound check accomplished.
Skipping survey.
Let's get started.
We have been sound checked, soundproofed.
Yeah, we're good.
All the
All
above.
right.
I'm not even going to touch this. Thank you guys for hanging out. We're going to get started right about now.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it, guys.
Right about now.
We're on.
Dugan.
How are you, brother? Good to see you, my man.
Good to see you, man.
The jacket's fantastic, man.
Thank you, Sean.
What's up,
Very
brother?
cool, man.
Good to
Very
see you.
cool.
It's a little dark. They can't really
Thank
see.
you for being with us tonight
Adds to the ambiance.
on a
dude.
Thursday night for a Tuesday show. On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. This is the WCAC Spectacular. We are live at the Avenue in Chevy Chase, 5540 Connecticut Avenue. Big shout out to Mike Ergo and Tim Walsh for hosting us tonight. We got a lot to talk about. It mostly has to do with the game that's coming up on Saturday night. That is St. John's Gonzaga. Before we get started, let you know who we are and what we're all about. We're First Amendment Sports. We believe DC is a great sports town. Everything we do tells that story. When your professional teams are letting you down, we always remind everybody, take a look at the WCAC. It's an awesome reminder of how great sports is in the town of DC. It's where we're all from. It's where all these people out in front of us are from. We love it. We absolutely live it, and we appreciate when people love it and live it with us. Thank you, Tim Walsh, again.
Timmy.
Why are we here? Why are we here? We're here because on a weekly basis we talk about DC sports. Most importantly, this time of year we talk about WCAC football. We got a big one on Saturday. I want to make sure everyone understands who we are, where we're from. We're from the WCAC. I want to say welcome, pride of DeMatha,
Stags.
Tim Strachan,
One DeMatha.
class of 94.
Whoa. This is a friendly environment, Jeff Clay.
Yeah, you were wrong about that, Jim.
In the trust tree.
I'm not. I don't even have a dog in the fight this weekend, man.
Pride of St. John's, class of 94, Kevin Ricka.
Hey, so happy to be here. This game has divided the city. It divides marriages. It divides families. It divides the avenue. Tim Walsh and Michael Ergo. I heard they're going to Indian wrestle on Saturday at 6 as a pregame ritual.
Matt, the Real Deal Seal, with us every week, covering the WCAC longer than all of us combined. We appreciate having your wisdom and guidance
Appreciate
here.
that. Not quite on
Almost.
we'll go.
Well, we
pretty
appreciate your
almost.
length.
There you go.
We appreciate your link.
Appreciate you.
We're going to do a quick WCAC roundup before we get to the action at hand. Last weekend was awesome. The WCAC had a championship jubilee, or jamboree. It depends on what you want to call
Jubilee. It was
Steve
a
called
jubilee.
it a jubilee.
I know, I kept saying jamboree, but it is the jubilee.
It
It's
is the
absolutely
jubilee.
the jubilee. Girls field hockey, boys and girls soccer, girls volleyball. We want to say congratulations to the St. John's cadets for champions on the court. Girls volleyball champions in 2019. We want to say congratulations to the Good Counsel girls field hockey team. Congratulations to the girls soccer team. They went 2 for 2 right out of the gate at Catholic University.
How cool was Coach Bruno?
Coach Bruno was
that's
awesome.
That's a guy that people need to take
Oh,
a peek
man, he
at.
is old
What a
school.
personality. What a conversation he had with you and I. What a stud, man.
13 championships for him.
72 years old.
But he
and
says it's
in
not.
his
They're not
30th year.
his.
He's been coaching
They're the girls.
117 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. He would cover the WCAC longer than you, Matt. Seal.
Yeah.
Legend.
In the night game, the Gonzaga Purple Eagles took down yet another championship in the WCAC. This time a boys title.
They
over
waited to
Good
the very
Counsel.
end, didn't they?
They tied it up with 6 minutes to go. Ryan Ely with a header, and then with about 20 seconds to go, Mark Western, Finn McCaslin, and Ryan Healy hooked up for a goal literally at the buzzer. Coincidentally, in the same spot, and I kid you not, please watch the video, the exact same spot that John Marshall caught the Hail Mary from Caleb Williams at Catholic University. I'm telling you, please, it's on our YouTube channel.
He would know. He's invested in the Marshall family.
Very
in
much
the future
invested.
stock. Yes.
John Marshall tweeted that out. I mean, it's uncanny that they won it in that fashion, in that way, and in that spot. Congratulations to Gonzaga, to Joe Rada, To Coach Scott, I love him. He's awesome. All those kids, and an amazing student section as always. They showed up for their brothers on the soccer pitch. It was awesome to see. We also have had some action on the gridiron this past weekend.
Yes.
I always turn it over to Matt Seal to bring us up to speed on the other division.
Let's talk about our Metro Division defending champions from St. Mary's Riken. They played Paul VI, last home game, I believe, at Paul VI, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was it.
Riken went over there, put up 48 points. 48-8 was your final score over there. So
they're cruising towards the championship.
Cruising towards the defense of the championship.
Yeah.
Looks like they're going to see Carroll unless something happens in the playoffs. Carroll went over to Bishop Ireton and put up 67 points.
Ooh.
60-point spread,
Restoring the
67
roar,
to 7.
one Saturday at a time.
So Carroll's got a fantastic rushing attack, and that's going to be a great matchup. I think it's next weekend. It's this coming one. I guess we're a couple of days off schedule here. So Saturday at Carroll, Riken comes up to town.
Yeah.
That'll decide first place in the Metro.
A quick glimpse of what's going to happen 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
at Catholic
Pretty much.
University,
And that'll be our
what's up.
first game on Championship
that's
Sunday.
a fact. Yes.
Shout out to Coach Harris and Coach Brady. Awesome job.
Yeah, both
by
of
those
them.
guys.
Great dudes, great friends of ours. We appreciate
Yeah,
both of
Friends
them.
of the show, absolutely.
Yeah.
Last year we saw Coach Brady and his staff battle O'Connell for a Metro Division title. They're looking forward to making their way back. They got some work cut out. Work still to do, I should say.
Yep.
There was other action in the Capitol. Good counsel. We're not going to have Tim on tonight. He would probably blow out our
He's been
speaker.
suspended for a week.
Logistical reasons.
There's a lot of
Gonzaga people here.
Jeff Clay,
we
would you
couldn't
like to
have
sing
him
a
on.
song for us?
He's drinking lemon tea. He's healing up in Poolsville. He's going to be fine.
It's going to be okay, everybody.
A good bye week for him. Yes.
We didn't get his song. They did well against Bishop McNamara. Got a W, let's just say. McNamara, wrapping up the McNamara story, McNamara can and is looking forward to knocking DeMatha out of the playoffs with a win against the Stags
They
on
could be
Saturday.
spoiler.
They
Think
could be
about
the
that.
spoiler.
They're playing. That's what they're playing for this weekend.
Not a
They're
doubt.
playing for spoiler and for a chance to get into the playoffs. I mean,
That's right.
They have everything to play for this weekend.
The winner of that game goes to the playoffs.
But I don't like.
That's a fact.
If I were McNamara, I wouldn't like to be playing DeMatha coming off a loss like they just had.
No.
So that's
It's
a
gonna
pretty
be-
big
it's
mountain
gonna-
to climb for McNamara.
It's a mountain climb for the Mustangs. And the Mustangs, they've been known to climb a mountain or two. Mostly you see them in wide open fields, plains, Mustangs, Roman. The mountain, not so much, Jeff Clay. But who knows?
Don't
with these
reach out
guys.
to jail for help after that one. Just let it ride. Don't name anyone's name, but I appreciate where you're headed.
First Amendment sports.
Mount McGregor is going to be too much to overcome.
Mount McGregor
Yeah.
is going to be too much to overcome, possibly, potentially. Remember that one time, Little Giant style. Just saying, icebox.
Becky?
Who knows? Just saying, it could. That one time. Remember that one time. Shout out to Q, my boy, giving all he's got, 11 tackles a game. There was another game the First Amendment Sports covered last
The game
weekend.
of the week.
Game of the
The
week.
WCAC Game of the Week at St. John's. St. John's hosted DeMatha. It was an awesome game. We're going to talk a lot about that game now. We're going to talk about St. John's, DeMatha. The winner of that game had the opportunity to lock in a home playoff game. Now that's huge. We talked about before the game, being able to host, especially with all the turmoil and all the possible ramifications. We'll get to what's at stake in the Gonzaga St. John's game. But the winner of St. John's DeMatha locked up a home playoff game.
Seriously, bust out your thesauruses because we're about to get into semifinal action.
We're about to get to semifinal action. All right, so Coach Casameno, Coach McGregor, 5 stars, 2 great offensive and defensive lines. I'll kick things off by saying that where Gonzaga was successful against DeMatha, which is to say they had an extended drives, kept the clock running, and scored first. St. John's did that out of the box.
Yeah, they did. Once again, it's a clash of the Titans at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. We knew it was going to happen. Those 2 defensive ends, Colin Mobley and Keziah Izzard. I mean, those are 2 factors to be dealt with on the perimeter.
He's huge.
Those are grown men playing high school football.
With as good as both teams
fair.
are in the running game, with the kind of running backs that they have on both teams, there was really nobody running very much on Saturday. Neither team had any success up the middle. They had a couple X factor plays here and there, but other than that first drive that St. John's had with a really nice pass to Rakim for the first score, there weren't many drives that were clean like that for the rest of the day.
They were fighting for inches.
They were.
It was.
They were.
I've never seen Marshawn stop like that before.
Well, you know what? He hasn't had tremendous success against St. John's and over the course of a quarter or two, but when the game's over, you look down, you see he has 99 yards. You cannot stop him. You can only hope to contain him, obviously, but, we saw a little glimpse of what he's all about. But both defensive lines were stout, and both running backs had to fight for every absolute inch that they gained. And at 24-20, this was, like I said, this was monsters going against each other. Oh, man, it was an old-school throwback game. Take it back to the 80s, and, it could be 24-20 either way, and it's about to be 24-20 either way for the rest of this season.
Yep.
That's about what we're looking at.
T, the quarterback situation at DeMatha is, you could use any number of words to describe it. It's a luxury when you have two kids like Malachi Anthony and Cam Edge. Mm-hmm. That said, the freshman, number 12 for DeMatha, who impressed us when we saw him come into the game against Gonzaga, against St. John's, it was almost like they found it wasn't even packages for series. It was like plays. He came out for specific plays.
So the first time was the first 3rd and long. It was 3rd and 12 that DeMatha was faced with on their first drive. That was a tough situation. Malachi, as good as he is running that option, read option type of offense and gets that running game going and helps out. They had to bring in the freshman when it was 3rd and 12, and, he stood up in that pocket like a senior. The way he stood up, he stepped up in the pocket, delivered the ball between the numbers at 13 yards, got the first down. Then he comes off, Malachi comes back in, and you're right. I think that is a luxury because anybody that plays DeMatha is going to have to prepare for both styles of offenses when one or the other quarterback is in there. That takes away a lot of reps from being able to key in on one guy and one style and one sort of scheme. So I think you're going to continue to see both quarterbacks come out. But I think you're going to start seeing Cam come in more and more earlier in the game than he has been as of late.
The confidence that Bill McGregor has in the freshman. Picture this. You're Cam Edge. It's 2019. You're playing in the WCAC. You are a true freshman. It's 3rd and 7. And Bill McGregor, the legendary Bill McGregor, looks down the sidelines and says, son, 3rd and 7. Get out there. Make it happen.
And then he
That's
executes.
crazy to me. It's crazy to me knowing Bill as long as I've known him, and T and all of us can say the same. And he does execute. And it's a different age and era. It's different than when we were freshmen, T.
Yep.
And that's a fact. But to be able to look down and be like, all right, 3rd and 7 at St. John's, winner takes a home field advantage. Cam, get in there, make it work. Yeah. That's nuts to me. But you know what? It's no longer. I'm numb to it. Because that kid stepped up in the Gonzaga game on I Street facing North Capitol and went 6 for 7 in that second half, and he's got all of it. We'll be saying his name quite often here for the next 3 years.
Oh, yeah,
hopefully the
sure.
Avenue brings us back if we don't mess anything up, and we can talk about Cam Edge here for a long time.
I was going to say, when we saw Caleb for the first time in person, we knew right away. We just knew right away.
Yeah, we did.
And we've seen every team in the league play at this point in time. We've been in person to see them all. I don't have any problem as a McNamara man saying that Cam Edge is going to have a lot to say about the outcome of the WCAC all 4 of his years, including this one. He's special. We watched him put balls on dimes. He put the ball away from defenders. He gave his receiver a chance to catch. I mean, Jeff, as a receiver, I can't imagine there's many other guys that you would love to get a ball from. I'm
sitting right here.
I don't know. I can't
I
think
am
of a single
right next
person.
to you.
I
We're
can't
friends.
think of anybody. But I can't wait to watch him play for 4 years. I'm excited for the DeMatha program for that reason, T. I think he's a special player and he stands out. And Tommy Ponton will at the holidays this year is going to give me a hard time for sweating a Stag so hard. He's awesome. He deserves it, and I think it's going to be very fun to watch him play for the next 4 years.
Don't drink Ponton's eggnog.
I'm not. I know. You know what? I don't. I'm not in the Wally World in the moose mugs. I don't.
Oh no!
it.
If there's a moose thing, drink it.
You can always drink out of a moose head. Always drink out of a moose head. That's good advice, by the way.
You got it, man.
All right. So it was 24-20. It was a close game. It didn't have to be that close, T. DeMatha had a couple stops. We don't need to talk too much about it, but there was like a time warp where the referees, I don't know what happened to like 65 seconds that should have come off the clock that didn't. And the end result was DeMatha had a chance with the ball at the end of the game.
They did. They had a chance to win. Cam took 2 shots down the field in the waning seconds, trying to, get DeMatha on the board, try to get the lead. And the second time he went to the well a little too much, and it was, help me with his name, for St. John's, the young man that had the interception.
Oh, Xavier Terry.
Xavier Terry, that's right. Xavier Terry had an awesome play and was able to step in and secure the win for St. John's. But we talked about game of inches. The one time he had before that hit the receiver in the hands. I think it was the same guy. It made the same play,
No.
Xavier Terry. It wasn't?
That was Josh.
Okay.
That was Josh Thompson.
But he made a good play. Yeah. But it was right there in his hands in the
Number
end zone.
24.
And then they go to it one more time,
Yes.
and then Xavier Terry makes that interception. Game of inches. It was a hard-fought game. It was a great game to watch, a great game to be a part of, a great atmosphere at St. John's. Hats off to both teams, and we know we're going to see these 2 teams probably meet each other again in the next couple of weeks.
People when they're watching St. John's DeMatha. That's a different flavor. We're going to talk about St. John's Gonzaga here in a second. But St. John's DeMatha also goes back a few years. And there's this image for me in St. John's DeMatha where the ball sits on the 1-yard line. Every single St. John's DeMatha game I've had the opportunity to stand on the sidelines for the last 4 seasons, there's been a point in the game where the ball sat on the 1-yard line or inside the 1-yard line. And one of those, and it's gone every possible way. There's been penalties that have moved him back. There's been goal line stands. There's been 5 or 6 play drives from the 1-yard line. It's to me the story of St. John's DeMatha in the last 3 years. It can be told with a picture of the ball at the 1-yard line. And that's really what it's come down to.
Cut out the poster boy D. Bring the fence from the neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
Because that's who's won that game 5 of the last 6 times that they've gone up against each other. There has been a defensive stand that has determined the outcome. And we talked about it pregame. We knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to come down to it. We didn't know it was going to be happening again, but it did.
It happened again.
That's what it is. That's what this portion of this WCAC rivalry is. It's what St. John's and DeMatha have done versus each other for the last 5 years.
St. John's and DeMatha have been beating each other up. St. John's and Gonzaga are about to beat each other up. Maddie, I want to get one last thought from you on your St. John's DeMatha experience. So you were down on the field. You had a chance to see a couple of those. In fact, I wanted to say I saw you in the shot when Cam dropped the ball, like the rain into Josh Dodd's hands on that first drive he had. What are your impressions of that guy?
He's something special, and he's along the same lines as Caleb Williams, because we saw something early in him, and you're seeing the same thing in Cam Edge. He steps right in, and he's ready to take on whatever challenge is in front of him. So the future is very bright down there, and out there in Hyattsville, I should say. But I want to actually pass the torch here from my seat to somebody else here who's got a little bit more to say about what we're going to talk about for this weekend.
Hey, Jeff, let's bring
and
you in,
that's
buddy.
Mr. Jeff Clay.
Let's bring in Jeff Clay. I'd like to welcome back. He's really not. It's almost welcome back because he's part of this show from the first time we started.
No, welcome back is appropriate. I feel neglected, but it's cool.
Neglected.
You know,
You're going to walk right up in here and talk about you feel neglected.
I mean, it's been a while. You know, you guys are always cool chilling in K-Town. You know, this is a much easier commute for me up in Chevy Chase.
But you can't feel neglected if there's an open invitation.
No. There's been some tension. The last time we played DeMatha, last 2 times we beat them. Last time we played McNamara, we beat them. Last time we played St. John's, we beat them. So I understand why you guys don't want to hang around me. It's okay.
So Jeff Tension Clay has now joined us. Here we go.
Class of 94.
Nice and relaxed.
Pride of Gonzaga. Welcome into the show.
Shout out Tim Walsh in the Avenue. Great venue, great food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come get a sip.
All right, so Jeff, here's how we're going to start this segment. I asked everybody to come up with a number of any kind, and I always put everyone else on the spot, so I'm going to go first. One number, we're going to take 40 seconds to talk about that. My number is 4. My stat is 4. St. John's has 4 losses this year, and I look at those 4 losses, and I think those are ultimately one of the biggest reasons for what could possibly be a successful run from here to the end of end of this season. I see that number 4, and I know what it represents. I watched those games. We were in person for some of those games. They schedule themselves a hard season. They want to win the WCAC, and I have a lot of respect for Griff and Coach Kaz and all those guys. To me, that number 4, it represents a hell of a lot of learning, a hell of a lot of tough lessons, all in one season. And I can't help but think that number 4 isn't going to be a big part of what they're preaching as they move through the playoffs, and hopefully for those guys to the final. To me, that number 4 should be, it's like a badge of honor. It shouldn't be looked at as anything less than that, in my opinion.
I'm not going to argue with that, man.
Yeah,
hey, we're all competitors. Let's play against the best.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I was watching from a distance, and it pains me to say, like, because we're all WCAC guys, I'm rooting for St. John's to win each of those games. And then when you see them lose 4 in a row like that, you almost get concerned, like, is it going to mess with their psyche? Are they going to be able to bring those kids back together? And then also, was it too physically demanding? But, shout out to the coaching staff over there with Coach Kaz and Coach Rickus and Phil and the Ward brothers. They've done all they can to keep those guys together. And, we got to respect that. You really do. It's a huge task to keep young kids mentally focused like that, to come back home to this league and play tough teams like we do and come out with W's.
That's a great point. We're talking about 15 to 18-year-old young men. Try and predict that. Anyone? Good luck, Vegas.
Who have all had success and now had to deal with some adversity.
Very true.
Probably the biggest adversity they faced in their careers.
T, do you want to go next?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So my number's 1.5.
Okay.
1.5 is the over-under on turnovers in this game. The team that goes over is most likely the team that's going to lose this game, because here's what's so important about a rivalry game. Rivalry games are not always about who wins and who loses. It's where legends are made. It's where the stories are told year after year, decade after decade. And when you finally get an opportunity in a game like this to jump on a fumble, get an interception, do something after there's a change of possession. It might not be the actual fumble or the actual turnover itself, but the play that comes off of it, the series that comes off of it that leads to the winning touchdown. 1.5. This game is going to come down to who doesn't make the most mistakes, and the biggest mistakes in a football game is always, the coach always looks at the stat sheet first, at the turnovers. Who had the most turnovers? That's usually the tail of the tape. 1.5. Whoever goes over most likely loses this game.
Hey, can I jump in on and back this up? This isn't my number. I want to back T's play. Kai Holmes recovers a fumble on St. John's first drive after Gonzaga gets the ball. In the first half, Gonzaga runs 40 plays to St. John's 16. And I'm going to give you a shout-out here, Mr. Gonzaga, North Carolina. Caleb Williams ran a Phil Ford offense against St. John's in the first half. He spread the field. They used every inch of the turf out there to enable himself and his team to win. 40 plays to 16 in the first half. When Kai Holmes recovered that fumble in the first half, it changed the dynamic of what was going to happen that afternoon.
When I said pick a stat, you had already picked a stat by the time I finished that sentence.
Well, you said pick a number.
Pick a number.
So I can pick a number.
Yeah, there you go.
Is 1821.
All right.
That's when Gonzaga was created.
That's when what?
That's when Gonzaga was created. 1821. That's when the school started.
All right.
1821. And all the great teams and tradition and spirit and support is what we're going to have to bring on Saturday night to win the game.
Are you summoning something other than like something unworldly here?
I mean, I'm just making sure people understand it's about community.
Do you guys have seances and stuff?
That's what drives the place. No, all jokes aside, though, my number is 32. I think that's how many touchdowns Caleb has accounted for this year. I think it's 17 in the air, 15 on the ground. Or I could have that mixed up. But and I say that number because he's going to have that kind of game again. Get in the end zone a couple times, be pinpoint accurate with the ball. And I think we're going to have to make some plays in the air to come out on top. We got to sneak down the middle of the field with Zarisky. And then we got to get Ennis and Fisher and Aaron to make some plays on the edge because I'm sure like St. John's going to be ready for Caleb and Malcolm in the middle. So we got to make sure we spread it around. But I say 32 because, again, Caleb's the guy that drives it. And that 32 is going to have to come up probably with maybe 4 more to get to 36.
Before you go, I want to see if we can't settle something that I think's been getting wrong the whole time. Everyone keeps saying this is the oldest Catholic high school rivalry in the nation. I don't think that's true. Name me 2 other Catholic high schools.
Are about to get schooled.
Name me 2 other Catholic high schools in the world who've been playing each other for over 100 years in a row. Is it not the longest Catholic high school rivalry on the planet?
So, Jeff Clay and I had some friends that came up from New York City.
Okay.
That played in a Xavier and Brother Jesuit Classic.
Yep.
So, what people have documented is the games that have happened that they have scores for.
Yeah.
But basically, it's their elders versus our elders.
And I'm not arguing for them. I'm just saying if Gonzaga St. John's is the longest Catholic high school rivalry in the country, how is it not the longest running Catholic high school rivalry in the universe?
Oh, it is?
It just has to be. Why do we keep saying country? Are there 2 Catholic high schools in Europe that have been playing each other? No. Then we can thank...
All right, you threw me for a curve there.
I did.
I thought you were going to hit us up with what
No.
our great-great-grandpappies were talking about back in the day. Because, yes, up in New York, they think it's theirs, but it's yet to be determined, and no one has any physical evidence to confirm who's got the longest. Listen,
I don't think France is calling to argue you.
Maybe Pat Antolino and Ralph Manfredonia could help us clear this up. Because it's Fordham Prep and what's the Xavier in school? That's their big rival. But listen,
Holy Cross is up there too.
We'd smash them both by 70.
Absolutely.
So that's
Absolutely.
a fact.
Yeah.
So I thought that's what you're getting to.
Oh, no,
I was
no.
getting a little feisty.
I think maybe we can thank
You
Martin.
made me go last, then you made me wait through this one, and I'm chomping at the bit over here.
Maybe we thank Martin Luther and King Henry for breaking up the Catholic Church in Europe. Otherwise, it might not be true.
Yeah,
Typically, the Shakespeare is reserved for McNamara Tennis Podcast. We can break it a little bit out for here at the WCAC. Kevin, why don't you give us your number?
Well, I'm going to break something out right now. My man Tim Walsh hooking me up right now. I'm not going to get into the story, but I'm just going to say it like this. He threw me my first touchdown.
Tim Walsh threw
Tim
your
Walsh?
first touchdown?
Scooter!
Well,
Tim Scooter Walsh.
he's now getting me a drink right now, and there's probably going to be a booger in it, but that's my problem. That's my problem. Yes, in the flat, my first touchdown. I pointed number 1. My grandma took a picture with you and I afterwards, I think. It was a great shot. Me, you, and my grandma. You look great, and you still do, and I appreciate that about you. Yeah. You were a freshman in high school, but you were basically a freshman in college. You ran everything in the local area, and you're still running it, and I'm happy to be here watching you do it. I've always been proud to be a guest of yours. It goes back till 1990, brother. 14 out of 15.
Okay.
That's my number, and it's twofold. It involves the Cadets, and it involves the Eagles. 14 out of 15. St. John's has won 14 out of their last 15 WCAC contests. That one that they didn't win is the one that we're going to talk about moving into this week. That's an outstanding number for the guys over there in Scarlet and Gray. Also, that one number has been on their date book, November 9th, since last year at St. John's when they lost one of those 15. 14 out of 15 is how many touchdowns Caleb Williams is responsible for Gonzaga in the WCAC activity this year. Gonzaga scored 15 touchdowns in the WCAC. Caleb Williams has thrown for 7 of them and rushed for the other 7. This guy, I think, is a historical player in the league. He's only a junior. We're going to talk about him. The kids that are coming up in the game, we're going to talk about him. I'm a St. John's quarterback right here telling you, and Jeff, tell me if I'm wrong, this guy might be getting to the Marvin Graves, Lawrence Moten type of level.
Oh.
The Chris Harrisons
This without,
of the world.
without question.
Wait,
Yeah.
Without question.
Moten, it's still Moten, though, right?
I don't know. I'm not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's got to be Moten.
Well, let me say this. You have to say Moten because he affected both sides of the ball. But
He was the best safety and would have been the best college football player.
But we had this discussion a couple of years ago.
Come on, Jeff.
No one player affected all 3 sides of the ball like Steph Diggs.
Stephon Diggs.
So,
Oh, no.
Wait,
You're
it's-
wrong.
But
Who?
Dick,
Lawrence Moten. When no one could throw a fade in the 80s on either side of the field because he was right in the middle.
not in the return.
I got a
Not in
side.
the return.
At 6'6", 230.
I got to side with
Are you
Rico on
kidding
this.
me?
he
Moten.
returned.
Stop it.
Moten returned.
Hey, listen,
return game?
if Steph Diggs and Moten got into a race right now, I'd have a better chance finishing closer Yeah, come on, dude.
Come
on, that's Lawrence Moat we're talking about. Stop it.
I'm not disagreeing about his
your
greatness,
shoes gold right now. You're driving me nuts.
Steph was returning kicks and punts like nobody's business. He was like Metcalf and Rice and everybody wrapped in one, man.
By the way, we've been talking to Lawrence. If and when Carroll, by the way, if you're watching out there, Coach, if and when Carroll makes that championship game, Sam hopefully will be joining us on the sidelines.
Yeah, and I will apologize for my great friend Jeff Clay's antics.
Yes. I mean, Jeff.
That's Lawrence Moat, man.
Lawrence Moat is kind of like our top dog.
I'm not
but
disagreeing.
It's amazing to see.
Hold on.
And Caleb has to do it for another year.
Definitely deserves to be there, though.
I'm sorry I'm shouting, but he was the best football player I've ever seen play in the WCAC, and he went on to lead the Big East in scoring, and he still holds the record as the all-time scoring leader in the history of the Big East.
Okay, so
We're
I'm not
talking about
trying to
different
minimize
cat.
the dude's greatness. I understand that. I grew up
You
in the
hate
city.
Lawrence Moat.
I grew up in the
I
city.
know, but you always like to have that weird thing that you
the
jump
dude
in there and throw it.
Steph had a run, man.
Steph
He had a
Diggs
run.
was awesome.
No disrespect.
He had a run,
No
man.
disrespect to the guy killing it right now in Minnesota.
In the NFL.
I would like somebody to be arguing whether I'm as good as Lawrence Moten.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty awesome.
You want me to finish that one for you?
No, I'm saying.
Because I am your biggest fan.
It's not a slight to Steph, is what I'm saying. It's not a slight to Steph.
T,
But
you're in the
right.
conversation.
Lawrence holds that.
Yeah, so he's in the conversation.
Yeah,
No,
T,
no,
T's
no,
in the
no.
distractions in the
He's on the
conversation.
Steph Diggs level, not the Lawrence Moten level.
Ooh,
I'm just saying.
that's a good level.
No, that's what
a
I'm
good
saying.
level.
That's the
I
greatest
would-
compliment you can give a man.
I would like people
is.
to talk about me like they're talking about Steph, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They do.
no, exactly.
They do.
We do.
They
Absolutely, we do.
You get those conversations, bro.
Hey, Jeff, last time, like I said before, last time we had this meeting before this game, it was in the parking lot at University of Maryland ahead
Good
of
times.
a championship game. Instead of reliving some of those games, what I wanted to ask you about was, and then let's put Caleb Williams on the side for a second. Coach Trivers and the Gonzaga program have done a lot of work since that day, a lot of work. What would you tell us is like the biggest thing that Coach Trivers has been successful in doing at Gonzaga since losing that final?
Getting kids to buy in. Like, they have minimal ego around that team, man. I mean, even Caleb, as great as he is, he's a humble kid, and all the other kids are humble too. I mean, and it's a dynamic these days. It's kind of weird. These kids are coming out of 7th, 8th grade. You know, all these high schools are salivating over them, and so
that's a
they
fact.
get a ton of attention, and they get told they're the greatest. But for some reason, Coach Trivers and the staff are able to like rein that kind of those egos in, get everybody to buy in, and make sure they understand that the team concept is what's going to propel them to being successful. And more than anything, I mean, people talk X's and O's. Look, Cass can coach. Every staff in the league can flat out do it. X's and O's. If you put them in a room, they can game plan to create a strategy to stop or score or whatever. But the little things that you do psychologically, and with consistency to get young kids to buy in and consistently do the right things is just what I've seen up close. It's miraculous that he comes in and not even no slight, but not a Gonzaga guy, just coming in, understanding the culture, and then being able to mesh what he likes to do with the culture. You got to take your hat off to him.
I've been very impressed with the manner in which, with the games that we've watched, the thing that stood out to me the most about Coach Trivers and what Gonzaga has done is that they almost never stop doing what they came to do. Whether they're up or down, it seems like their attack, the way that they call plays, what they know they can do well, they just keep doing it. Now, we've watched them win a ton of games in the fourth quarter, if you looked at the score, you wouldn't think the game was won in the fourth quarter. You would have thought it was won in the second quarter. But time and time again, Gonzaga has made people play them the way they want to play for 4 quarters.
They control pace.
The whole time.
Now
all
they
the
go
time.
fast with the ball. They slow it down with the ball. They have a check with me situation. They get right on the line of scrimmage. But guess what? They ran 30 more plays than good counsel in that game. They had them 82-52. They take care of the ball. It's how they won at St. John's last year. We talked about the first half. Now St. John's had a few more plays in the second half due to circumstance and what happened because of the punt return.
They certainly won that game in the first half. They certainly won in the first half.
They made it happen in the first half the way they ran offense. And by the way, last year we covered the week before. We didn't see Caleb run once. We didn't see Caleb run once
And
all
he
year.
ran the heck out the ball.
And we knew it was coming. We talked about it that week, and we were all together. We said, it's coming. It's coming. You can see this kid.
Yep.
25 carries for 77 yards.
And I'm going to tell you, it's funny you
It
say
was
that
the 1,
because
2, 3,
it
Jeff.
it was reminiscent of when Kasim played the playoff game at Gonzaga
Absolutely.
a few years back.
Absolutely.
He did the same exact
Absolutely.
thing. Played the same exact type
Yeah,
of
I
football
agree with
game.
you.
And
I
just
agree with
totally
you.
dominated.
Yep.
And when I watched that last year, that's the first dude I thought about.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And listen, at Good Counsel, 32 carries. Now last week at McNamara, 2 carries for 3 yards, but 250 yards passing and 5 TDs.
Yeah.
And Aaron Turner became a factor. Let's make sure we give Aaron Turner a shout out, because when I watched that film, I saw a young man have a 71-yard touchdown reception, a 41-yard touchdown reception, a 90-yard kickoff taken to the house, and a 3-yard rush. He got it done every way across the book. And that's kind of how the confidence is building over there. And it's kind of what they did last year. Of course, you had the big guns outside with Sam and John Marshall out there doing their thing with Caleb. But keep an eye on Aaron Turner Saturday night, number 5. He's their guy. He's their deep threat. He's their dangerous guy. And on the other side of the ball, listen, man, we know what's happening. St. John's went pound and ground a little bit against DeMatha, pulled it down and threw a couple passes, but they're kind of starting to find their identity. And it's control the line of scrimmage, run the ball, and then get the ball to Rakim whenever you can, whenever
That's
it's
true.
allowed.
You got to get the ball in number 1's hands in so many
No
different
doubt.
ways. He's so dynamic. But where I thought St. John's really shined on Saturday, yes, they tried to do the ground and pound. They didn't really get a whole lot of yardage. They were trying to keep the DeMatha defense honest, but it was Soul J when the play breaks down and keeps his head up and either gets the first down with his legs or he finds somebody downfield. That's where St. John's got the edge offensively over DeMatha on Saturday, is when things broke down, Soul J the magician does what he has to do to keep that drive going or to get the points on the board.
So we got 2 magic acts at the quarterback position.
We do.
So I want to step away from the big names. We talk about the big names all the time, and we're going to continue to do so. But for one quick segment, I want to shine a light on not the guys who do the dirty work that we never hear about, but just the next tier down. And I'll lead us off, give you an example of what I'm talking about, and what on each side of the ball. And I'll start with Gonzaga. Olufoshanu is a guy whose name we have said. We're going to talk about Caleb Williams. We're going to talk about some of those big names on defense. Olufoshanu, you can't do what Travers wants to do without that guy, and he is awesome. He's awesome to watch. He deserves more credit than we have time to give, and I just feel like their offensive line is such a strength, and he's such a big reason. On the St. John's side of the ball, I just challenge anybody to watch the St. John's Cadets and not come away falling in love with the game of number 5, Jamar Curtis. He's done it, but he's a small running back. But he's done it between the tackles. He's done it from the slot. He's done it on outside runs.
Returns.
He would not get tackled in a 2-hand touch game, and he is a difference maker. And he was against DeMatha. He has been ever since we started watching him. Everyone knows how I love Colby McDonald. Everyone loves Baby Bus. But you really hurt yourself if you sleep on number 5. He's a pleasure.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
My comp to him is Tyree Randolph. Now, I know he's only a sophomore, but Tyree Randolph was one of the best high school running backs I've seen in a very long time at Gonzaga. He's still killing it at the next level right now. This kid, my dad coached him last year, and all he did was call me and talk about him. And that's his comp, so I'll be honest. I agreed with it, but that was his comp. And what a tip of the cap to a stud running back in the league. And he's just getting started. And, man, Tyree got started around the same time and didn't get finished until it was all over. He was a beast. That's who he reminds me of if we're talking about this scope right here.
T, do you want to shine some light on somebody that not named Rakim or MJ? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I have a feeling,
Caleb.
St. John's is going to, on defense, really got to step it up because you got a guy like Caleb on the other end. I think it's going to be a guy like Rohan Davey. I think it's going to be one of those
freshman,
linebacker sort of alley guys that's going to have to play the run, but possibly, cover a tight end. I honestly think that St. John's is going to have to put all eyes on Caleb, and somebody on Gonzaga's team is going to have to step it up. But it's a Rohan Davey who's going to make a big-time play, a kid that is, yes, young, but has shown us he can make plays. And I think it's those types of guys that are going to have a real huge impact in this game.
Jeff, you want to
Yeah,
throw
I'll
someone out
probably
there?
go with Jalen McNamara at Gonzaga in the defensive backfield and the secondary. I think.
Oh yeah, dude.
He's gonna have to step up to the challenge, man. They're gonna try to get Rakim involved and have him dominate the game. And I think you just got to know the DB. He's gonna make some plays, and you just got to come back and be like, I got to make the next one. I got to make the next one, and that next one could be the play that is the difference in the game. Because you're not gonna totally shut Rakim down, but if you get a DB who can hang with him in there tough and just battle and compete, and I think that kid's a competitor. So I would say we need him to be an unsung hero that day and step up and compete every single down.
So I got 2 underclassmen.
Okay.
I got an Eagle. I got a cadet.
All right.
You hear about this 4 Power 5 O linemen, 4 Power 5 O linemen, and all summer long I was like, I got to figure out who's starting. Who's that 5th dude over there at Gonzaga? And Joey Trainer.
Young Joey T.
Looks just to me, Jeff, like these 4 looked last year. You knew they were going to get something. So let's just dispel the myth that there's like 4 Power 5 and then what? No. There's 5 Power 5. It's a 5-5 situation. It's what it is. But my dude, and I love him.
Yeah.
Number 52, Arturo Maddox. This dude, when he tackles you, it's like Dick Butkus did it. It wasn't like you just got tripped up. It wasn't like he untied your shoestring. It wasn't an arm tackle. You feel it. When he's a heat-seeking missile, when he gets to the ball, he gets there. And guess what? Those 2 underclassmen, we're going to see plenty of each other's face masks on Saturday night at 7 o'clock at Catholic University. Joey Trainer and Arturo Maddox will be right in the mix.
There's
Let's
some underclassmen defensive players. It's easy to fall in love with a Cam Edge or a Caleb Williams or a Rakim Jarrett because they just show up. They score lots of points. Marshawn Lloyd, can never forget about him. But when you talk about Lawrence Moten and you invoke the name Lawrence Moten, you're automatically got to talk about someone who's going to stand out defensively. Turn Jeff's mic off. There's a couple players I think.
I'm just kidding.
I think Arturo Maddox is one of those players, an underclassman who might have the ability to get to that level in 4 years.
He was born to play football. There's guys like that, like Tyree Randolph, like guys that you just see him play and you're like, okay. Yep. And in fact, like the 2 dudes sitting over on the other side here, Ken, he was born to do what they did. They were born into a position that eventually someone went, they were born to do this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this, there's 5 guys on the field on Saturday night, and we saw the college football playoff rankings come out. There's 5 guys on the field on Saturday night that have offers from not just one of the top 6, from all of the top 6.
Yep.
That's what we're dealing with here in the district. So when lives and marriages and friendships are divided from 7 until 9:30, think about it. 5 dudes. How about this? 13 of the top 15 teams in the college football playoff rankings have players from this game in the last 3 years.
That means, really what that means is there's a solid chance of 5 or 6 guys in this game that are going to be playing on Sunday.
For sure.
And I don't want, I can't, even though I said we're not going to talk about the big name, T and Kevin, when we were at that game, we're talking about St. John's DeMatha for a second again. Antoine Littleton played both ways. He absolutely made a difference with the ball in his hands in short yardage situations, but it can't be forgotten. He played defensive line most of that game. And when you talk about what Marshawn Lloyd couldn't do, number 7, along with some other guys, Tyze and some other guys on the St. John's defensive line, Littleton played both ways. And when you see guys doing that, you just got to tip your hat to them.
You have to, because you see that happening less and less these days.
A running back and a playing
and then
defensive
for
line.
a kid to even be willing to do it, you have to tip your hat to him. And then for him to affect the game that way, it was awesome to see.
Yep.
But unfortunately, I think your point also points out one of the weaknesses in St. John's right now is how dinged up they are. They've got a lot of guys hurt. They got guys hurt on the back end. They've got guys hurt up front. Guys like Littleton have to now go both ways.
Yep.
And that is actually maybe a negative going into the game. It's hurt them a little bit down the stretch. They have so much talent on that team, but they have played such a tough schedule. They've paid the price for it, and that's going to be a factor in the game.
Now, I just told the whole world that these 2 were born to do what they did, but they were not born to play both ways. So I'm gonna sit right here and tell you that I'm part of this new school, old school scenario. Because you know what, I did have to tackle an SOB or two.
It wasn't for the lack of want. I wanted to play both ways.
Well, hey,
I wasn't allowed to.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
There was no want.
You didn't want to play defense at all?
Kick the ball off to me, punt it to me, and throw it to me, and I'm good.
No, I wish I could.
I might have played a little defense on freshman, and that's it.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and get into our Gonzaga wins, St. John's wins, part of the show.
Yeah.
And I want to lead off with you, Jeff. Gonzaga wins on Saturday night if.
If they get scores from Fisher, Ennis, or Aaron Turner, I think one of those three guys has to come through. I just think that has to happen because St. John's is so strong in the front seven. That's not to take anything away from the secondary, but there's going to be some blitzing, and so you got to take advantage of that when it happens. And I think one of those three guys is going to have to come through, even Karisky. But I think more so one of those three because they're slept on. Those three are slept on. I mean, Aaron gets a little attention because of his speed, but those three guys are slept on, and I want them to hear me say this right now so they can just tuck it away and sleep on it, and then drive them to freaking just play a game of their lives on Saturday night and make a difference. So I think if we get scores from one of those three guys, I think that'll be the difference.
See?
He took a page out of my book. I'm not going to name anybody. Somebody other than Caleb is going to have to step up in this game. It has been amazing what Caleb's been able to do. He has almost single-handedly, just in terms of the big plays and the scoring drives, and Kevin's talked about the stats, about how many touchdowns he's accounted for. If somebody other than the name Caleb Williams steps up for Gonzaga, they have a great chance of winning this game.
I'll say Gonzaga wins if Joe Hammond rushes for, I was going to say 6 or 7 first downs. Because what I was so impressed about what Joe Hammond did against DeMatha, he had about 10, 11 carries, something like that.
Yeah.
I think he rushed for about 5 or 6 first downs.
Yes, he did. He was the guy in the second half.
He was the guy in the second half. I know there was some guys banged up. So to me, if Joe Hammond has 6 first downs on the ground, I think that's a good sign for Gonzaga.
I agree.
You want to
straight Gonzaga question?
No, I was going to let you start. I'll give you Gonzaga if you want it.
No, I was just going to say.
Go ahead. Gonzaga wins on Saturday if.
He can't say that they will.
Caleb doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Because, when he's back there creating, which he's been given all creative, anything
freedom.
he wants.
He's got the green light. Green light. Shoot it.
Well deserved. Well earned and well
Shoot the
deserved.
Keith Veeney style.
No doubt. Gunning.
He protects the ball and makes plays like he has been doing all year long. It's all about Caleb. Not exactly expert analysis, but I do have 2 eyes, and I have watched a lot.
Kevin, St. John's wins on Saturday if.
Sol-J Maeva. We can talk about the D-line versus the O-line. We're talking about 8 Power 5 guys going at each other. So you want to see a line of scrimmage when Gonzaga has the football and St. John's is on defense. We're talking about 8 guys that will be playing football or starting next year in the next few years at the college level. Last year, Sol-J had a slow start to this game and heated up later and made a great play in the final regular season. He's kind of been the unheralded guy as the quarterback this year. We haven't really. Now, I love the kid's toughness, but we watched him last week. He was magical back there against DeMatha. He made plays happen. He's got one of the best stiff arms I've seen a quarterback have. This is time for the senior quarterback who's gone through it all, who's traveled over 5,000 miles to be here for this rivalry. I'd do the same thing if I could. I just happen to grow up about 40 minutes away. Sol-J Maeva has a day.
Okay. I'll snake it back around. St. John's wins on Saturday if Caleb Coombs has 6 or more catches. To me, he's a guy who I wouldn't say he's been forgotten because he hasn't. He's a very good player. I expect Coach Trivers to do everything he can to take Rakim out of the passing game. I expect them to make Sol-J uncomfortable and maybe not be able to get to his first or second. Caleb Coombs, if they throw to him, he's a factor. We've watched that happen. If Caleb Coombs have 6 or more catches, I think that's a good sign for St. John's. T?
I'm going to start with a side note. We already talked about it. Get the ball in the hands of number 1, Rakim Jarrett.
Yes, sir.
Got to get him the ball. But the big point for me is always going to coincide with what I said about Gonzaga. St. John's has got to have 7 or 8 guys either in the box or all keying on Caleb Williams and force somebody from Gonzaga to step up and win that game for them. If they can do that and keep him contained and not let him get out and have those X-factor plays that he has been so clutch in pulling out time after time after time, that's how St. John's wins this game.
Jeff, before you, he made me think of something because we always do the comparison. We always caveat it by saying we hate to compare a high school kid to a professional athlete. But the way he looks like Pat Mahomes when he's scrambling, and then he off balance on his back foot, falling backwards, moving sideways, and throwing a fastball strike to you name him. That's the big thing about Gonzaga's offense that stuck out to me is he gets. If there's a guy open, he hits him, and that guy catches it. So to your point, T, if you get your hands on him, you better bring him down.
Yeah.
Because he's going to throw a strike to a guy you never heard of, and he's going to make that guy famous. Billy the Kid style. St. John's wins on Saturday if.
See, it's going to sound kind of weird because you wouldn't think of it like this, but I think they actually need to control it. I think the less chances you give Caleb to make plays, the better. And watching them this year, to me, they haven't been as efficient on offense as they were last year. That's just my take. So I would say, and I was thinking about what you said. I was thinking DJ though, with this size, matching up, catching the ball. I think Lincoln's could be a big factor. But also I think if Kobe probably rushes for a buck and they control the clock a little bit, I think that's going to play to the advantage of the St. John's because
that's a fact.
We don't. The only house guys really are Caleb and Turner. They're the only guys that are going to catch it really and hit that house. I think most of the time the other guys are probably in the 15, 20-yard play range. And I think if
don't sleep on Nate Krisky.
Yeah, no shame. It's just, it's just that I think what I'm saying is if St. John's minimizes possessions, then they force us to make those chunk plays. And I think we're more the type of offense that wants to drive it. So I think if St. John's approaches it that way, trying to control the game, I think they'll be successful.
All right, what's on the line? We know that St. John's has secured a home playoff game. We know that the rest of the WCAC is locked up in a major way. We can say if St. John's wins, if Gonzaga wins. First, let's start off with what's on the line between these two teams. The top seed. And
top seed.
This game this weekend is for top seed.
Top seed.
Which is a big deal. What I think I love most about that idea is that, okay, so no one from St. John's or Gonzaga wants to lose against St. John's or Gonzaga ever, and I respect that. I tip my hat to that. But you also get the notion that there's a bigger game than this one that they're both hoping maybe to be in again. And it's in 3 weeks. But go ahead, Kev.
Hold your horses on that one.
Okay.
The last time St. John's and Gonzaga played at Catholic University, Jeff Clay and I had to go north of Pittsburgh that day. That's why the field was open. I tore my MCL early in the first half. At Thiel, we had to shower, and Jeff tore it was a terrible day. We both got injured that night, just for historical purposes. Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear off. My dad drove around campus, found Zeke Fuhrer, who directed him back to where I lived, and we spent the night watching boxing. And I think my dad wound up at Kitty O'Shea's that night. What I'm guaranteeing is no matter what happens, my dad's not winding up at Kitty O'Shea's this Saturday night.
Oh, then
that's all I wanted to say.
Nobody should end up at Kitty
O'Shea's. Is it gone?
But Jeff was there. It's gone.
Okay.
It's gone.
Because otherwise,
It's gone.
that's better he'd go.
It's
You know?
actually,
That's
like a hipster spot now.
Yeah.
Real nouveau riche.
That sounds like Coach
That's tough
Rico.
to take. That's
It's
tough.
a
New
nice
wave.
It's a nice deal.
Yeah. Man.
The millennials have taken over.
I'm in there.
Hey,
So-
PW, Pat Williams.
PW in the house. Appreciate you.
Thank you for being here
P-Dub.
tonight, my man. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate it,
Pat.
Pat.
We appreciate you, man.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Coach Carroll Carmody.
Appreciate you.
Yes, we're working on her for the playoffs, but you know she's a tough get.
Appreciate you, Pat Williams.
We'll put you in charge of that, Coach.
I want to say that I think that
She's got a nice gig these days.
while no one wants to lose a game against the other one ever, they'll be talking about this game in particular forever. And I just appreciate the fact that the championship games is going to stand supreme. And both of those teams feel like they belong in that game. And becoming the top seed, kind of puts you in position in the driver's seat to get to that last game. Jeff, we talk about all the time. They only hand out one trophy. You can talk about all the magazines and newspapers and podcasts and blogs out there, and they can rank teams however they want to rank.
Podcasts.
Who doesn't want podcasts anymore? There's only one trophy. There's only one trophy that they hand out to these teams. It's the WCAC trophy. That won't get handed out on Saturday, but what will matter on Saturday to all these people here and to all of us, it will live forever. And we want to say thank you to Griff and to all the administration at St. John's for working with us and letting us be there to put it down. We want to tell all the parents of the kids who are going to be watching their kids from afar.
The ones watching right now.
The ones watching right now.
You guys mean all of the difference.
Among a lot of reasons, chief among them is to be able to lay these down, for posterity. I mean, we talk about the Gonzaga DeMatha final last year. We always talk about the McNamara DeMatha game from 1990. That has to live up here. At some point in time, this is going to get cloudy. Thank goodness, those kids, they can just go on the internet and they can watch, John Marshall can watch that play forever, and he should.
And show the new girls, show the ladies, he can do it all.
Without a doubt. So
that's a great point, because this game, you're right, this game is not about the championship.
I thought you meant the ladies.
No.
This game has nothing to do with the championship. This game actually has nothing to really do about the playoffs. This game has to do about a rivalry that runs deep, that runs strong, that is something I lived through my brothers having gone to St. John's. So I've been in this rivalry. I know what it means. Kevin talks about, dividing marriages, dividing families, dividing, Thanksgiving dinner in some respects.
That's gonna be
means
divided anyways.
so much to so many people.
I will
and some
someone
people
up
say
at
that's so
Thanksgiving.
dumb. It's just a high school football game. Yeah, it is a high school football game, but it's a high school football game that these people are going to talk about forever.
I had somebody say that to me today. Like, it's just a high school game, and I'm like, it actually makes no sense to me. Like, I have no idea how you can be more invested in an NFL team than you can at a place that you went to. Like, I went to Gonzaga. Those guys I sweat with in the locker room.
It's real.
And on the field, you bleed, you study together. You know what I'm saying? You go through all those battles together. So and then you come back, they treat you like family. So why wouldn't you be more invested in your high school team than an NFL team who gives you nothing? That just doesn't register for me. So yeah, it's just high school, but it's important to a good community on both sides. And every year it's about the friendly trash talk. I live for it. I like to have bragging rights, and I hope I have them Saturday night.
It's 1 versus 2. And we haven't said that yet on the show tonight.
Yeah.
It's the number 1 and the number 2 team in the city. Forget about where all the publications rank them nationally. It really doesn't matter, because most of them don't know what they're talking about. It's the number 1 team and the number 2 team in Washington, D.C., in the Washington, D.C. area. So something's on the line. It's going to be on the line. First Amendment Sports is going to be there. We're going to go live at around 6:30, 6:15, 6:30, Saturday night, live from Catholic University. We are going to be back the following week with the semifinal game. We will give you details on that. And then on November 24th, also from Catholic University, we will be there. First Amendment Sports.
The great Catholic University.
Great Catholic University
of America. They're great.
These two guys played for the WCAC Championship. Please do us a huge favor. Hit subscribe on the First Amendment Sports logo. It's a free subscription. You'll get a notification when each and every one of these games start. I want to say thank you so much to Jeff Clay for hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
I appreciate you guys.
This is the way we envisioned it.
You know, I came all the way up to Montgomery County last week to see my man Young Ricker throw the ball around. And I'm like Uncle Jefferson in the stands cheering you on. I had my purple hat to touch for good luck. And the dude hides his hands. So you guys
Smart
haven't
kid,
had me
Smart
around. My feelings
kid.
were hurt. And then Jake hurt my feelings, so now I feel better about myself.
Well, you know you're an original. You're part of this First Amendment Sports family,
No, I'm joking.
and you bring us all the purple credibility in the world that we need in our lives. Maybe even more than we need, but as much as we could ask for.
That could be debated.
It could be debated. And I don't want to. Before I say goodbye to these two guys, I want to make sure that as a group, we said thanks to Griff and thanks to St. John's for having us. But thanks to these two schools, Brian Griffin, Joe Rada, two great guys, two great men, two good men that care about their schools, that care about the kids, that are working tirelessly. Does anyone know anybody besides those two guys who work more at what they do? Those two guys are all-stars.
Demanded spot, man. Very demanded spot.
If we're going to be documenting the WCAC on a real-time basis.
All-stars for the kids.
For the kids.
Their ego has nothing to do with nothing but the kids. They're trying to provide the best possible experience, and we are lucky from both these institutions to have those two men in charge of what our young men and women are doing.
Absolutely, and as long as we're putting this down for posterity and we're documenting, these games and these sports year-round, at some point in time, the question will be asked, who are the legends of the WCAC, and we know some of them. You guys were coached by some of them. You were coached by one guy still doing it.
I was coached by two legends.
Two
one
legends.
That's still doing it.
And we
Morgan Wooten and Bill McGregor for sure.
Exactly, and the names. There's too many. The Moss Collins. We go Tom Clark,
Marty
Favret. But Joe Rada and Brian Griffin deserve to be in that conversation while we're
John
covering
Ricka.
it. John Ricka.
They're doing all of it, man.
They're doing all of it, and we just can't let it be forgotten.
Oh, you said
Oh,
him.
yeah.
I got him.
Oh, we got him. It's important. It's
Bob
important to
Malloy,
us.
don't forget about
We're
the
not gonna
all-time
forget.
winningest coach in the history
know,
of the state
right?
of Maryland.
Yeah.
400 dubs. How about you? How about celebrating 400 times that your team won that day? I'm good with like 14.
Yeah.
The preacher.
The
preacher.
We're gonna do. Our Mount Washmore has more than 4 heads, and
For sure.
We're gonna add to it all the time. We'll be there on Saturday night. I'll be there with these two guys, Pride of DeMatha, Tim Strachan.
I cannot wait. I've been looking forward to this. The culmination of a great season before we get to the playoffs. To all you going to be out there, looking forward to seeing you out there. Enjoy this moment, to the kids especially. Enjoy this moment. Enjoy it. Give it everything you got. It's going to be a day that you'll never forget. And until then, stay grounded. Be rounded.
Bundle up.
Pride of St. John's, class of '94, Kevin Ricka.
I know it's St. John's Gonzaga week, and that's all we should talk about with this WCAC community that we have. The ability to maintain friendships that exist well beyond what we're talking about tonight. But Tim Walsh, right there.
Scooter.
Michael Ergo.
Scooter.
We're at the Avenue. We are right in
Barney
the heart.
Gacheta.
Yes. What's up, Barney? Jim Whitty. There's some good dudes out here. Listen,
Judge in
this is
the
what
house.
we're doing. And listen, I get to teach my son about it. And a guy like Jeff Glenn, a guy like T. Strachan goes to my 9-year-old son's football game. It just restarts. We all stick together. We have our beef. But guess what? When we go shoulder to shoulder against any other conference, come on. You can't mess with that.
We're all together.
It's like we're all brothers, and we'll fight to where we can't. But when it's time to fight someone else that's not from our family, we got the best conference. That's why we call it the league. Hey, till Saturday night, be a good sport.
On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo, and Billy Cannon is say it again, Jim. Super Bowl. Bring them together.
47, 45, and 5. Gonzaga leads the series.
All right.
Let's keep it that way, baby.
Go easy, step
Can you
lightly,
turn this mic off?
stay free. First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. WCAC Spectacular.
Thanks, everybody. Great chat tonight. Keep it up. Okay, brah.
I cannot believe that he did all that.